spinning hits to win. Wake up to the best. Overt Morning Show. Good morning. Good day. Where positivity keeps on scoring. Good vibes. Great gifts and stories to share. Overt Morning Show. Rising with you everywhere. When you come my way.
Alright, good morning Lagos. It's a beautiful Tuesday morning here on Overt Radio. We are broadcasting to you live from the city of Lagos. Lagos is a center of excellence, the city that never sleeps. This is Overt Radio, the Tuesday edition of Overt Radio Breakfast Show. My name is Ken, and we are kicking off the breakfast show like we normally do every day, Monday to Friday, between the hours of 8 and 10 a.m. every day. Monday to Friday, we start with reviewing some of the stories making headlines on our various newspaper this morning, and after that we dive into political update, where we talk about political issues, what is going on in Nigerian politics. So that is what we'll have for you this morning. And we actually had a scheduled interview with one of our guests, but unavoidably the interview will not be able to hold this morning. It has been rescheduled for 9 o'clock tomorrow, which will be Wednesday, August 12th, 2026. So don't feel disappointed, because our guest will still that interview will be held. Will be held tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. instead of today. It was just this morning he reached out to us this morning that he will not be available. Unavoidably, he will not be available for that interview due to some other engagement that he is currently having. So tomorrow we'll bring you the interview of Honorable, let me check that name very well, Honorable Oke Okafo Ihediche, NDC candidate for 2027 Federal House of Representatives, also East Federal Constituency. So that interview will be brought to you tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock Nigerian time. All right, so let's get things started this morning. Here on Overt Radio, like we normally do every morning between the hours of 8 and 10 a.m. The breakfast show is being brought to you by our sponsor, Ogamal, that is Life Back Pharmacy and Stores Limited, marketers of Ogama QS soft gel, and anti-malaria medicine and Swedish bitters. All right, so let's get things started in earnest. Yes, we are starting today's story from the Sun newspaper online this morning, and that is the very first headline that we'll be taking a look at this morning is Nigerians still flock to South Africa despite xenophobic attacks. Nigerians still flock to South Africa despite xenophobic attacks. That is coming from should be the South African envoy there. Despite renewed concerns, let me go through it again. I'm so sorry for that. Okay, it went away. Alright, that's that. Okay, despite renewed concerns over xenophobic attacks targeting Nigerians and other African migrants in South Africa, interest among Nigerians seeking to visit the country has remained strong, with visa applications almost doubling in recent months. South Africa's Consul General in Nigeria, Professor Bobby Muro, disclosed this in an interview with Nigerian Info on Sunday, saying the development showed that South Africa remained an attractive destination for Nigerians despite concerns over safety. Muro dismissed a report that South Africa missions in Nigeria had stopped issuing visas to Nigerians, describing such claims as untrue. He also reassured prospective travelers that the country remained open to Nigerians for tourism, business, and other forms of visit. I just want to give reassurance that South Africa is open for business, South Africa is open for tourism, and South Africa is open for any other form of visit. And it is also untrue to suggest that South African missions in Nigeria do not offer visas to Nigerians anymore, he said. But I can assure you and the listeners that it is safe to travel to South Africa. I indicated during the beginning of the show that the number of visa applications have almost doubled. His comments come amid renewed concerns over xenophobic attacks in part of South Africa, particularly Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal, and the Western Cape, where Nigerians and other African migrants have reportedly faced violence. The attacks, which have often been linked to allegations of competition for jobs and claims of criminality, have included the looting of business owned by foreigners, assault and forced displacement, triggering concerns in Nigeria and across Africa. The federal government had also facilitated the repatriation of more than 1,400 Nigerians who were stranded or feared for their safety in South Africa. Despite the concerns, Moreau said the rise in visa applications indicated that Nigerians continue to view South Africa as a viable destination for travel. The Consul General, however, advised Nigerians planning to travel to the country to obtain the required visas before departure and comply with South Africa's immigration laws. It is everybody's responsibility to ensure that before you travel, you ensure that you have your visa, you comply with the immigration laws of the country, you become a good ambassador of the country. Let me quickly round up that story. Moreau further urged Nigerian visitors to familiarize themselves with South African laws and understand their rights, while also knowing where law enforcement agencies are located in case of emergencies. When you get to South Africa, you know and understand your rights, but you must also familiarize yourself with the laws of the country, he said. You choose places that you want to visit and ensure that you also are familiar with the location of law enforcement agencies just in case something happens. The Consul General expressed confidence that visits between Nigeria and South Africa would continue to increase, stressing that South Africa valued its bilateral relationship with Nigeria. Yes, so that is that. So remember a few weeks ago, that was last month if I can remember vividly, we did had a South African resident, a friend of the station by Lerato Pitt, who we had an exclusive interview with her last month, and there were a lot of things that she did say. There were a lot of things, how this attack started, how the government of the South Africa, have neglected the pressing issues, facing the country, particularly the unemployment issue, workers' welfare, and other social economic problem, and that unattended to, had sparked this hostility, by South African citizens towards foreigners in that country. So it is not something that is deliberate. Xenophobic attack is not something that is deliberate, because if I want to be sure that no right-thinking individual will pick up arms and start, chasing foreigners, telling them to leave the country. It is part of the accumulated anger. It is part of the accumulated unresolved things that the South African government themselves have not been able to address, in terms of, like I said earlier, unemployment, welfare of the citizens, youth unemployment, so I just hope that that in the coming days, things in South Africa, this hostility, this violence in South Africa, will die down, and we hope to have another interview with our South African friends, down out there in South Africa, so that she can give us, more information as to what is going on in South Africa. It is a very painful thing that as a foreigner, you as a Nigerian, or you as a Ghanaian who have been in South Africa for like 5, 7, 10, 15 years, you have, you started a family there, you have invested, you have a business there, and all of a sudden, you lost everything. You came back home with nothing, despite the investment that you've made, despite the business that you've started, despite the family that you started. You return to Nigeria, you return to Kenya, you return to Ghana, or you return to Cote d'Ivoire, or wherever you are returning to, and all is gone. But that is life, man. So that is that. So now, my take on that, also my take on that story, is that it is high time the Nigerian government, start thinking about the welfare of their citizens. If the country is blooming, if things are going on well in Nigeria, if the government, if the leaders, both present and past leaders, had sit down to think on how to improve the welfare, how to improve the life being, the well-being, of Nigerians. Nobody, no Nigerians will say that I am leaving the country and go in search of a greener pasture. It is when the government in your country fail to do what is expected of them to do for their citizens, then that is when citizens feel that they don't longer have faith in the country. So what is going on in South Africa, what is going on in other countries, whereby citizens of countries are leaving their country in search of greener pasture, is not only peculiar to Nigeria. But while I am talking to the Nigerian government, to the Nigerian leaders, it is high time Nigerian leaders and the government start to think about how to improve the well-being of Nigerians, think about how to create job opportunities for unemployed youths, for unemployed graduates. It is when people feel that they don't believe any longer in the future of the country, so they will definitely look elsewhere, because man must, like we say in the streets, man must work, man must survive. So we must survive, and if there is no hope of survival in Nigeria, if there's no hope of making it here in the country, I will be left with no other option than to leave the country in search of a greener pasture elsewhere. So the primary responsibility in fact, in terms of reducing this xenophobic attack in South Africa, countries, the government of the citizens that are leaving their country to South Africa, must first of all be responsible for their citizens, be like a leader that is worth emulating. Do things that your people will like, put in place infrastructure, put in place an enabling environment for small businesses to thrive. It is because there is an enabling environment in South Africa, so that is why Nigerian youths are leaving the country. It is because there is an enabling environment in the United States of America. That is why our doctors, our engineers, our nurses, are leaving the country in droves. It is because there is an enabling environment in the United Kingdom. That is why our medical professionals and practitioners are leaving the country, are leaving Nigeria to the UK to further their studies, or to further their career, or for career advancement. So it is number one, is there's a failure of our leaders for not doing what is expected of them to do. So that is why you have droves of young Nigerians between the ages of 20 to 35 to 45 to 40, leaving the country to other country where they feel that yes, if I am in this country, my future and the future of my family will be guaranteed. So I want to put a call to leaders in Nigeria. Do what is expected of you to do. Do what is expected of you to do as a leader. You are a leader. You have the opportunity to make things right. We don't want to regret that after 8 years or 4 years of your administration, that will be saying, we knew that former president, we wish that he was alive. We don't want to regret past administration. We don't want to regret when when the tenure of this president ends. We'll be saying, I wish that particular former president, how I wish he was still alive. We don't want, that is not leadership. You've not set yourself a good example as a leader. So to xenophobia or xenophobic would not have arisen if leaders in the African country, in the African continent, do what they're supposed to do for their citizens. If African leaders do what is expected of them to do in their respective countries, none of their citizens will wake up one morning to say, I've lost hope in this country. I'm not sure my future is guaranteed. So the hope that you preach, let us see that hope in reality. The hope that you promised during your campaign, let us see that hope impact the life of the people. So that is it. Let's move to the next story, please. Yeah, all right. The next story, still on the Sun newspaper. Coup plots. Colonel Maaji breaks silence, cites patriotism and frustration. Colonel Maaji breaks silence, cites patriotism and frustration. Nigerian Army Colonel Maaji, accused of involvement in an alleged plot to overthrow President Bola Tinubu's government, has attributed his actions to what he described as patriotism and frustration with the worsening condition of the country. Maaji, in a statement made available on Monday, apologized for his involvement in the alleged plots and appealed to the authorities for leniency, insisting that he was not driven by personal ambition but by a desire to see Nigeria become a better country. He said concerns over poor governance, insecurity, inadequate welfare for military personnel, and declining living standards had contributed to discussions among some officers about the state of the nation. According to the colonel, the situation had become so troubling that he feared Nigeria was heading towards collapse. He said his concerns were also shaped by the difficulty of providing for his 5 children on what he described as a meager salary. My God. What has happened has a very long history, and it is driven by patriotism, and I love the job and country. Maaji said, every time I look at how I am struggling to raise 5 children with my meager salary, I get worried. Looking at every aspect of life in Nigeria, there is no hope for the common man, and we are left to defend ourselves. This has nothing to do with any ambition or personal goals. It is purely out of the desire for a prosperous country that works for everyone. Maaji said military personnel were among those affected by the country's economic and security challenges, particularly soldiers wounded during operations and the families of 7 personnel. He said the alleged movement had remained at the stage of mobilization and discussions when security authorities intervened, adding that no specific date has been fixed for any action. The colonel also denied the involvement of foreign collaborators while explaining that different individuals become involved at various stages of the discussions. He said some people expressed concern over the condition of the country, while others later withdrew or failed to provide resources that had initially promised. Maaji, however, disclosed that his frustration was also linked to his failure to secure promotion to the rank of Brigadier General on 2 occasions. He said some colleagues encouraged him to revive the movement after his second unsuccessful attempt. My God. The officer said his arrest and subsequent detention had changed his outlook, making him recognize that there were lawful channels through which grievances within the military could be addressed. If God willing, the authority is kind enough to pardon us, we will never contemplate this course of action again in the future. Now, just take a look at the things he said. Let me go back to what he said. He said that what has happened has a very long history, and it is driven by patriotism. And I love the job and country. Every time I look at how I am struggling to raise 5 children with my meager salary, I get worried. Looking at every aspect of life in Nigeria, there is no hope for the common man, and we are left to defend ourselves. This has nothing to do with any ambition or personal goals. It is purely out of desire for a prosperous country that works for everyone. So this is a colonel. This is a colonel with 5 children. And what he has said is what is entailed. It is what the ordinary military personnel officer, armed personnel are facing. If a colonel could make this statement that the reason why he attempted a coup plot, the coup that was last year, was as a result of frustration, was as a result of his of the love for the country. Remember last year when it was time for Nigeria to mark the, I think it's 55, Nigeria will be 56 this year, when it is time for the country to mark the 55th independence anniversary, because yearly we used to have this military parade at Eagle Square, and all of a sudden that event, that military parade was cancelled, and we're all worried that this is the military parade at Eagle Square. We used to have the jamboree, the funfair, Nigeria's independence. It was cancelled, and many were worried until after some days later, weeks, we started reading, getting information that there was an attempted coup plot trying to overthrow President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And I think initially that story was denied by the presidency before it was later it was later accepted that there was a coup plot. So what Colonel Maaji has said is what the masses are going through. Okay, is what the masses. He says every time I look at how I am struggling to raise 5 children with my meager salary, I get worried. Looking at every aspect of life in Nigeria, there is no hope for the common man. This is what a colonel in the army said. He says, looking at every aspect of life in Nigeria, there is no hope for the common man, and we are left to defend ourselves. There is no hope for the common man. This is somebody who is gainfully employed. This is somebody who, at the end of the day, he receives alerts on his phone for salary, and yet the money, the salary he receives is not even enough to cater for his 5 children. Okay, it's not even enough to cater for his 5 children. So what Colonel Maaji was facing while he was in the army before he was court-martialed is what the ordinary Nigerian people are facing, is what the masses are facing. I am included, of course. Okay, it is what we are facing on a daily basis. There is no improvement of life in the country. There is no improvement of well-being. You are paid, and at the end of the month, and 2 weeks after, 3 weeks after, you'll be wondering, where is this money that I received at the end of the month? Where has it gone to? Where has the salary, the money I've received, where has it gone to? Yes, there is time for savings, but will you put money aside and you get hungry? Will you put money aside and every day you'll be looking at your family will be looking at you? Which one is left for savings? Is it not when you have enough? Yes, you must discipline yourself, but hey, when you are hungry and you said you are saving, you have to first of all feed yourself before you save. All right. So this is a typical example of what the ordinary man faces on a daily basis in the country, what the masses face in the country. Okay, if a gainfully employed Nigeria would say this, he says, look at every aspect of life in Nigeria. There is no hope for the common man, and we are left to defend ourselves. He says, every time I look at how I am struggling to raise 5 children with my meager salary, I get worried. This is somebody who is gainfully employed. What about those who are not employed? What about those who don't have a daily income, a monthly income? What about those who roam the streets? What is life for them? What is our hope for the common man? He says this has nothing to do with any ambition or personal goals. It is purely one of the desire for a prosperous country that works for every man. He said the reason why I participated in an attempted coup was not because of my selfish desire. It is because I want to see Nigeria better. It is because I want to see the lives of people improved. It is because I want to cater for my family. So what he said is, my motive was that of patriotism, not of self-interest. And I want to urge the military to take a look at what this man said and profess solution to Nigerian, to armed personnel. Make sure that the priority of the Nigerian army now, at least for the next 6 months, for the next 3 years, for the next 5 years, that they should start thinking on how to improve the welfare of the armed forces personnel and other security agencies in the country. They should take a cue. They should take a lesson from what this man has said. The police is there. The police is there. The Navy is there. So it is high time our leaders have the right priorities. Let your priorities be right. When you have the wrong priorities, your government will be toppled. We are not saying that the president has not been doing well. The president has been doing well since 2023 when he came into office. He has been doing well, but it is not enough. Nigeria is over 200 million people. It is enormous. You can't do everything within 4 years or 8 years. If there is just one thing you can do, either to fix power, to fix the health system, to fix education, to fix the unemployment in the country, just one of these things I've mentioned, your name will be written in gold. Your name will be written in the sands of time. It is as a result of bad leadership that a colonel and an army officer would bring in friends to plot a coup. This is what he said. It is what he said that I'm saying. It is what he said. It is based on the understanding of what he said. I'm relating it to you. bad leadership. Our leaders are not sensitive to the plight of the people. All right, let's move to the next headline. It is 31 minutes gone past the hour of 8 o'clock. This is Overt Radio. We are broadcasting to you live from the city of Lagos. Lagos is a center of excellence, the city that never sleeps. All right, this program is being sponsored by Live Back Pharmacy and Stores Limited, marketers of Ogama-QS soft gels and anti-malaria medicine, and also they are the marketers of Swedish bitters in Nigeria. All right, let's move to the next headline. Still on the Sun newspaper. Osun workers lock secretariat. Clarify 20,000 naira palliative amid political tensions. Organized labor in Osun State on Monday defended the 20,000 naira disbursed to workers last week, clarifying that the funds were approved as palliative to cushion the effect of economic hardship rather than for political vote buying. The unions who temporarily shut the entrances to the state secretariat in protest carried placards bearing various inscriptions, including "Call Oyetola to Order." Addressing journalists, the Nigerian Labour Congress NLC chairman in the state, Comrade Christopher Alakpa Sokpo, explained that the financial support followed a direct request made by the union to Governor Ademola Adeleke. On April 8th, organized labor wrote a letter to His Excellency Senator Ademola Jackson Nuruddin Adeleke, requesting palliatives for workers and pensioners in the state, specifically asking for 20,000 naira for each workers, Ara Shoko said. Following subsequent meetings in early July and taking the state financial constraints into account, the governor promised to pay 10,000 naira each per month for June and July, which Labour duly accepted. Arakpa Sopo decried claims circulating on social media by the All Progressive Congress APC, alleging that the payments were a form of vote buying. He emphasized that the initiative originated entirely from labor leaders seeking to alleviate economic pressures on workers, noting that Osun State is not immune to national economic challenges. Expressing deep concern over security and political tension in the state, the NLC chairman appealed to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to call the Osun APC leadership to order. This election should not be a war. As workers and pensioners of Osun State, we have every right to vote for whosoever pleases us. No worker must be intimidated or harassed, Arakpa Shoko said. He further urged the international community to monitor development in the state and called on the Nigerian police force to remain neutral, professional, and focus on protecting citizens rather than taking sides. Referencing report of armed thugs operating unchecked, he urged security agencies to safeguard public peace. All right, so that is, yes, we have heard it from the horse's mouth. Remember that all through last week, Osun State has been in the eye of the storm. Remember that on Wednesday, the EFCC froze one of the bank accounts belonging to Osun State. It's a first bank account. So according to the EFCC, they alleged that they observed that particular account, there have been huge transfer of funds from that account. So that was why that account was, that was why an embargo was placed on that account. That account was suspended according to the directive from the EFCC. And on Thursday, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in a statement, gave a directive to the EFCC, telling the EFCC to unfreeze that bank account due to the timing of that action. The president said that yes, the EFCC acted independently, but the president said that he was concerned, as to the time that account was freezed, because election Osun State will be going to the election for their governorship election this Saturday, August 15. So the president said that he doesn't want it to look as if that Osun State, the government of Osun State, in person of Governor Ademola Adeleke, is being witch hunted, as to the election, so that it will not be as if the federal government is trying everything possible to make sure that they suppress the political strength, of Adeleke, because APC is in the federal, and APC is not in charge of Osun State. So the president said that, well, he made that directive, he gave that directive to the FCT to unfreeze, so that it won't be as if the federal government is suppressing the political might of Adeleke. Well, and there were divergent reactions. There were mixed reactions after the president gave that statement. That, Mr. President, since you said that the EFCC operated independently, and that the EFCC did not take any permission to freeze Osun State bank account, so why are you now interfering in the matter? That you should have just leave the EFCC to do their work independently, and carry out their investigation. So why are you interfering? So it is contradictory. It is confusion, in the presidency. I am not confused. It is the presidency, the federal government that is confused with the intervention, with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's intervention. So, and there were allegations that bank account will be, or the money that the huge funds transfer, according to the EFCC, will be used to for vote buying or for other form of voter inducement. But thank God that the NLC in Osun State, they have come out to clarify that the 20,000 naira payment was part of the request they made to Governor Ademola Adeleke, so as to cushion the effect of workers in Osun State, to cushion the suffering of workers in Osun State. That the 20,000 naira palliative is not a political move, is not a political palliative, but it is a palliative that they requested, and the governor listened to their request to say that, okay, I will be paying you between 2 months, you will be receiving 10,000 naira extra, in addition to your salary. So that's 20,000 naira, which the EFCC thought, or which those in the opposition in Osun State thought that Adeleke is paying workers 10,000 naira, 20,000 naira, so as to induce them to vote for him, during the governorship election in August 2025, in August 15, 2026. And thank God that the EFCC has come out to the NLC, the Nigerian Labour Congress, has come out to clarify that the 20,000 naira they received from the state government is not a political money, but it is a palliative, that they requested the governor should give them. All right, and that has been cleared. Okay, Adeleke has been vindicated. All right, so that is that. All right, let's go to the next story. It is 40 minutes gone past the hour of 8 o'clock. This is Overt Radio. We are broadcasting to you live from the city of Lagos. You can go to our various social media platforms on X, Overt Radio Live, on Instagram, Overt News, on TikTok, overt.radio.lagos. We are also streaming live on YouTube, Overt Radio Live, so that you can interact with our viewers, all the programs that we've done here, our interviews, our exclusive interview, our live talk shows, from morning, to night here on Overt Radio. To interact with our content, share them, like them, comment them, and help us on social media. All right. Now, the next story, Wike is still on the Sun newspaper. Wike denies lobbying for APC campaign DG, vows to deliver Rivers FCT for Tinubu. Okay. Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has dismissed reports that he is lobbying to become Director General of the All Progressive Congress APC Presidential Campaign Council, describing the claim as false and reaffirming his commitment to securing a decisive victory for President Bola Tinubu in Rivers State and the Federal Capital Territory FCT. Wike, who reacted through his senior special assistant on public communications and social media, Lere Olayinka, said he had neither sought the position nor discussed the leadership or membership of the proposed campaign council with anyone. The denial followed reports in sections of the media listing Wike among prominent APC chieftains and government officials allegedly being considered for or lobbying for the position of Director General of the party's presidential campaign council ahead of the 2027 general elections. Describing the report as untrue, the minister said his priority remained the discharge of his responsibilities as FCT minister and supporting Tinubu's administration rather than seeking a position in the president's campaign structure. Wike said he was currently outside Nigeria taking a break after spending more than 30 days supervising projects across the Federal Capital Territory. He said, and I quote, "I am outside Nigeria resting and relaxing after spending over 30 days commissioning projects, flagging off new ones and inspecting ongoing ones, especially those scheduled for commissioning in December and January next year." He continued to say, "When I return, our focus will be continuous delivery of our mandate in line with President Renewed Hope agenda and to further enhance his electoral fortune in Rivers State and FCT." Okay, let me read out his last quote in the report. "Therefore, I do not need to be the DG or even member of the Presidential Campaign Council of Mr. President's political party to contribute my quota by ensuring that he wins handsomely in Rivers State and the FCT." All right, yes. So Wike has, denied or debunked or rejected claims that he's lobbying, to be the Director General of the APC Presidential Campaign Council. The Director General is the one that will be in charge, is the person that will be in charge in ensuring that the presidential campaign, it is well executed, that no nooks and crannies in the country is left behind. So Wike has come out to say, I don't need to be the Director General to ensure that I deliver APC in the FCT and APC in Rivers State, that I don't have any ambition, I'm not interested, so he has debunked that report, and of course, what do you expect him to say? Wike is, still an active member of the People's Democratic Party. He's still an active member of the People's Democratic Party. So he is becoming the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory (FCT) on the platform of the All Progressive Congress. Is just an extended goodwill of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to Nyesom Wike due to the enormous role Wike played in the president's election. So it is compensation time, and Wike has been duly compensated, and he must ensure that like they say, that whom much is given, much is expected. So Wike is ensuring that, yes, I am the minister in an APC administration, a PDP person, because this will be the first time in Nigeria political, as far as I've been studying politics, as far as I've been, observing politics in Nigeria since 1999, this will be the first time where an active member of a political party will be appointed a minister in a ruling party. This will be the first time. I stand to be corrected, but in recent times, they will ask you, "Oga, why are you doing this now? Why are you embarrassing us? Don't we have capable arms in our party that you can appoint as minister? Why are you bringing in somebody from the outside? Why are you bringing in somebody from another political party to be a minister?" So one thing about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu that Nigerians must know is that if a president identifies a talent, if President Bola Tinubu identifies a talent, he will go for that talent. And if President Bola Ahmed Tinubu identifies that this particular individual has played a crucial role in contributing my election, the president will go for you irrespective of your political affiliations. So that is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for you. Okay, and